Hi, I'm Larissa, and I'm here to talk with you today about time management skills in our changing world. We all know that COVID has changed routines, so therefore our routines must also change. The changes from COVID may look different for everyone depending on how your state is responding. However, the most common differences are closed campuses, hour changes for facilities like libraries, gyms, daycares, etc. Some of us have had to deal with more than one quarantine, and many things are shifting to a more computer-based format as opposed to in person. Most everyone's schedules have changed, and with all of these changes, personal time management skills have become more important than ever. To begin our discussion on this topic, I would like to talk about general time management skills. A first step to time management is often deciding on what goals to focus on. Long-term goals are useful when planning semester-long accomplishments. These are things like your final paper, a big project, or other assignments that you have deadlines for well in advance of their due date. Short-term goals are useful when planning day-to-day and week-long tasks, like homework, completing your reading assignments, doing your laundry, etc. Both short and long-term goal planning is important when it comes to improving time management skills. So, how do you begin to set the goals you decided to focus on? Smartly. SMART is an acronym developed by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, otherwise known as SAMHSA, to outline how best to go about planning goals. For anyone who would like to know more about SMART planning, there is information in the session resources. Goals you set should first be specific. This means that the objective clearly states so anyone reading it can understand what will be done and who will do it. This means that you should be as precise as possible when creating goals for yourself. For example, it is much easier to follow through with eating an apple a day at lunchtime versus eating more fruit versus eating healthy. Your goals should also be measurable. This means deciding how you will know if progress has been achieved or if a goal has been reached. To go back to the lunch example, this looks like eating an apple a day at lunchtime versus eating a better lunch versus eating healthy. In this case, the first option would be the easiest to measure out of the three. Goals should also be achievable. This means setting goals that are possible and realistic to achieve. Going back to our example, this could look like setting a goal of eating an apple a day at lunchtime versus eating a bushel of apples a week versus picking a fresh apple from the vine each day at lunch to eat. Though a fresh apple a day would be nice, we know that it wouldn't be a very realistic goal to stick to unless you lived on an apple orchard. Your goals should also be relevant. This means making sure your goals are focused on objectives appropriate to the subject. For example, a goal of eating an apple a day at lunchtime may be good, but it would not be relevant when setting goals for your English 101 class. Lastly, goals should always be time sensitive. This means that each goal should have a specific time frame for completion. Going back to the apples, this looks like eating an apple a day at lunchtime versus eating an apple a day. Giving lunchtime as a signifier makes it easier to assess if a goal has been completed on time. In times of COVID, time sensitive becomes an increasingly important piece of goal setting. This means making sure to check and double check due dates, class meeting times, etc., as dates may change more frequently. COVID may also impact the achievability of some goals. To counteract this, best practices are to get in touch with your teacher as soon as possible to figure out what could be done to help accommodate situations that have arisen due to COVID. Many teachers are more than willing to help if you only ask them. Now that we've learned a bit about how best to set goals, I have a challenge for you. I am going to set a 5-minute timer for group discussion. In this time, I would like everyone to use the SMART goals planning to make at least one goal for themselves this semester and share it with the group. Feel free to share more than one goal if you would like. Once you have decided on your goal, please use the SMART planning to describe how your goal will be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time sensitive. Okay, group, the 5-minute timer will begin now. Okay, group, that was 5 minutes. Thank you very much for sharing your goals. Hopefully, they will help you to have a successful and happy semester. Now that we've covered goal setting, let's move on to discuss how time management looks with school obligations. Class syllabi are your best resource for deadlines and due dates. Your syllabus usually has the entire semester worth of assignments and their due dates and is the best place to start. Having a physical or virtual calendar is also important. Being able to coordinate between all of your plans by looking at one place is imperative to keeping a functioning schedule. Plan for breaks and set timers. This may sound counterintuitive, but I will explain why taking short breaks is essential to time management later in this presentation. Schedule the correct amount of sleep for your body and make sure to follow through with it. Scheduling personal deadlines sooner than actual ones are also a great trick you can use to help you prepare if you, like me, might be a bit of a procrastinator. Now that we've covered the basics, we can move on to discuss what school looks like now with changes due to COVID. There is much less face time with peers and teachers. There's also more personal responsibility put on the student for deadlines. Telecommuting is now common, and it brings with it a host of possible technical difficulties. Instead of class discussions, most professors now encourage the use of discussion boards on Blackboard. And of course, there is the anxiety that comes with the many changes and hardships associated with COVID and a changing world. It is clear that changes with COVID are not limited to social distancing and wearing a mask in public. And managing time on your own schedule at home has now become a personal responsibility. To cope with this, here are some new best practices in times of COVID. You should continue to make sure to check school or work email, Blackboard, and class postings as often as possible. I find that daily is usually best. Make sure to make a semester-long plan that includes day-to-day responsibilities as well, adding due dates and important assignments on the calendar you will see daily. You should make sure to organize your personal plans as well as your school and work plans on the same calendar to avoid overscheduling or time conflicts. With these best practices in place, we can now discuss some ways to make working from home as productive and pleasurable as possible. An important step that is often overlooked is to minimize distractions during working time. This might mean turning off music or the TV, keeping your pets from intruding, asking for quiet time or space to work independently from housemates, or anything else pertaining to keeping distractions out of your working space. You can set timers for predetermined short breaks. Plan about a 5-minute break every hour or two. During this break, you can take the whole time to do whatever activity you would like without guilt. Dance, take a walk, listen to music, take a power nap, really do anything that isn't working on your current task. Most people find that taking these short breaks between tasks or during long tasks actually helps to keep them more focused than if they tried to power through it. Giving yourself permission to take breaks throughout the day also helps to take away the temptation to use time wasters like social media while we are working, so it's easier not to fall down the rabbit hole, so to speak. If you're stuck and having a problem getting anything done, then change your scenery. Take a short walk or work from a different room for a little while. Sometimes a change in scenery really helps to reset your thinking. Also, if how you feel helps determine how you produce, then feel free to dress for success. For example, if you have a power suit that motivates you to write papers well, then go ahead and put it on, even if you're at home alone. Vice versa, if you're productive in pajamas, then feel no guilt about wearing them while you work. I would now like to set another 5-minute timer for a short discussion. For the first 2 minutes, I would like it if everyone could share at least one distraction that they face working from home. Feel free to share as many as you can think of. Okay, 2 minutes begins now. Okay, that was the 2 minutes. Now, with the last 3 minutes, I would like everyone to share one thing that they've done to help deal with the distractions they've described. You can share as many as you'd like, but please try to share at least one. All right, group, 3 minutes begins now. All right, group, that was the 3 minutes. Thank you all for your participation in that. I would now like to switch gears back and speak a little bit about some how-tos and planning. First up is how to set your best schedule in an unknown world. Coordination is extremely important. I cannot emphasize enough the need to constantly check to make sure there have been no changes to your schedule. You can also look for virtual options where physical ones may not be available. For example, though many library hours have changed, most schools have a virtual Ask a Librarian chat option. This is a great resource as they can still help you with just about everything that they offer in person and will often email you any resources you requested within 24 to 48 hours. You can also consider non-traditional hours if it fits your schedule better. For some of us, working from home means a shift in normal routines and hours. If you have found that nighttime is now your most productive schoolwork time, it is more than okay to plan for that in your scheduling. Go with the routine and timing that fits into your responsibilities and is most natural for you to feel productive during. Lastly, try not to overextend yourself. It can seem like working from home opens up much more time on your schedule, but you still need time to do your regular routines at home as well, so be careful not to overschedule yourself. So, how can you make peace with your home life being a part of your work life? The best ways are some things we've already discussed, such as talking to your teachers or advisors. For example, if you have difficulties in your home life that might make a conflict during school time, let your teachers know well in advance. Excuses are not necessarily bad right now. They help to provide insight and understanding into your situation so that a solution can be found. Be understanding of others' shortcomings, and they will likely also be more understanding of yours. Embracing flexibility is also helpful, as scheduling tends to be more uncertain due to COVID. Lastly, make sure to ask your family and friends for support when you need it. As we know, uncertainty means difficulties may pop up suddenly when dealing with scheduling. The best way to deal with this is getting comfortable with being flexible, although I know it is not always pleasant. It is also helpful to leave 30 minutes to an hour of your day unscheduled when it is possible. This way, you can use this time as flexibility hours if you need to make changes, or you can catch up on last-minute tasks that suddenly popped up. If nothing changes, at least you have some extra relaxation time. Make sure to communicate with your teacher or supervisor as soon as possible if you have something urgent that comes up. Sometimes making worst-case scenario plans is actually quite helpful. You can try to plan in advance how you would approach a task if something had gone wrong. That way, if you find that you need to make changes, you already know where you need to begin. Now, I would like to switch gears a little and speak about the relevance of your mental and emotional health. So, what does good mental health look like? One way that it can be defined is by seeing how effectively and successfully a person functions, which includes feeling capable and competent and having a sense of achievement, feeling resilient, flexible, and able to manage normal levels of stress most of the time, maintaining satisfying personal relationships, feeling loved and lovable, being independent and feeling in control of your life. Being able to recover from difficulties such as bereavement and other losses. The ability to enjoy life and keep it balanced, balancing social time with time alone, balancing work and play, sleep and activity, and relaxation and exercise. It is good to remember that few of us are ever perfectly balanced, and the art of living is in shifting and adjusting to what is going on around us and what we feel within us. We are all human. Mental health becomes an issue when problems begin to affect daily functioning or leave you feeling overwhelmed. So now that we've spoken on what good mental health looks like, I'd like to touch upon some warnings and/or triggers that might signal a need for getting help and support. This might look like feeling overwhelmed frequently. This could look like getting easily flustered and upset when you are given a task or tasks. Everyone gets overwhelmed sometimes, but negative effects occur when it's happening on a regular basis. Not feeling the joy from activities that used to make you happy. Maybe you used to love reading, but you just are not getting joy when reading even your favorite books. Changes in eating or sleeping patterns other than expected adjustments to a new routine. This includes both over and under sleeping and eating. This might look like someone who can't seem to get out of bed and is routinely spending 16 hours sleeping. Or it could be a new habit of binge eating during times of stress, or even not being able to eat at all when you normally would have an appetite. Feeling hopeless, thoughts of suicide, or harming others. Feeling low self-worth or self-confidence. This might look like someone who is often down on themselves, saying things like, "I don't think I'm good enough." Differences in mood, like irritability, anger, or mood swings. This could be a calm person who usually does not raise their voice, yelling at all of their friends in the same week, or even someone who is usually down being suddenly chipper and energetic. Observable changes in personality. This could look like a friend who is normally very talkative and friendly that suddenly becomes shy and withdrawn more often than they were talkative and friendly. Increased substance use, gambling, or risky behaviors. This can look like more than increased alcohol use and online gambling. It could also include increased risky behaviors like sexual activity, dangerous driving, etc. Isolating. More than just COVID physical isolation, this also means isolating yourself socially. Persistent negative thoughts, such as "I'm not good enough" or "I'll never get better." The best visual for this usually is in the form of Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. Hearing voices or seeing things that others do not. Or an observable shift in appearance, like someone who usually wears makeup every day and suddenly stops wearing it at all. If you begin to feel any of these changes, please consult the session resources and reach out to a mental health provider or hotline as soon as possible. You matter and you count. It is always okay to ask for help. Also, remember, if it is a mental health emergency, call 911 immediately. The emergency room can often make referrals to other beneficial mental health services once you are evaluated, and sometimes can help to speed up the process of getting in to see a mental health provider. Mobile crisis services are also helpful in mental health crises where immediate attention is needed, but it might not be an emergency. For more information about this, please look in your session resources. If you have non-urgent needs, you can also ask your primary care physician to make a referral to mental health services in your area that take your insurance. When it comes to helping friends who seem like they might be struggling with any of these warning signs, it might seem daunting. Some of the best things you can do when you are concerned for a friend is to first simply ask them how they are doing. Showing empathy and concern for them can give them a safe place where they can open up. Let them know that they can share their problems with you without judgment. If this seems hard, try to put yourself in their shoes and imagine what you might be feeling if you were experiencing this. The best thing you can do is to continue to reach out and just be a friend. Let them know that you are there if they need you. You can also offer any resources you have, like the ones you were given in your session resources, and make sure they know that they will have your support if they decide to seek help. Now that we're aware of what to look out for and how to handle it, I would also like to speak on how your surroundings affect your mental state and productivity. Many people find it easier to focus in a clean and organized space. Sometimes taking 5 minutes to tidy up your immediate area can help to improve your headspace if you're feeling overwhelmed. Also, get comfortable in the space you will be using to work. If you can, decorate, organize, keep it tidy, and add small comforts, whatever makes being in that space feel more positive for you. Lastly, I would like to share some ways to help keep yourself sane and happy in these difficult times. Keep your thoughts about yourself kind and try replacing negative self-talk with encouraging praise. Don't forget to take small breaks throughout the day. Try to schedule fun at least once a week. It helps to have something to look forward to. Acknowledge all of your feelings, especially the ones that aren't pleasant. Utilize your favorite relaxation techniques, whether this is meditation, yoga, deep breathing, anyone that you like, definitely put it on your list of things to do. Get outside when you can. And breathe. Yes, really. For examples of deep breathing exercises and meditations, make sure to check out the Wellness Center. They also shared some in your session resources. Keep addictive substances in moderation and cut back if you notice a negative effect from them. These can be anything like caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, marijuana, etc. You can join an online group like a support group or one based around a common interest if you're looking for more social opportunities. Seek help as you need it. There is no shame in using the resources and supports that are intended for your use. When or if cabin fever sets in, as it is likely to do when cooped up for months due to COVID, shake up your routine. Do your math homework before history if you normally do your history first. Alter your routine. Do whatever you can reasonably do to make changes in your schedule so that you don't get too bored. Exercise regularly. 2.5 hours of moderate intensity exercise or an hour and 15 minutes of vigorous intensity exercise is recommended per week. In addition to the regular health benefits of exercise, there are actually many benefits when it comes to mental health and stress levels. To quote the movie Legally Blonde, exercise gives you endorphins. Endorphins make you happy. Happy people just don't shoot their husbands. They just don't. An article from Harvard Health Publishing shares that endorphins are responsible for the runner's high and for the feelings of relaxation and optimism that accompany many hard workouts. Regular physical activity will lower your blood pressure, improve your cholesterol, and reduce your blood sugar. Exercise cuts the risk of heart attack, stroke, diabetes, colon and breast cancers, osteoporosis and fractures, obesity, depression, and even dementia. Exercise slows the aging process, increases energy, and prolongs life. Exercise can also decrease levels of your body's stress hormones, namely cortisol and adrenaline. In addition to that, exercise can also help to reduce anxiety, depression, and negative mood, improve self-esteem, cognitive functioning, and sleep, and increase your energy and stamina. It is also worth a mention that exercise can greatly help after an experience of panic, the fight or flight response, or a significant rush of adrenaline caused by a stressor of any kind. It has been found that just 20 minutes of vigorous exercise after the stress or adrenaline response can help to clear the so-called bad chemicals that get released by our nervous system during this time. This helps our bodies to feel better not only on the day the stress response happens, but in the long term as well. There has been evidence that doing this 20-minute practice after a stress response can help to prevent lasting health conditions associated with high stress levels, like heart attacks and high blood pressure. To know how to recognize when to use exercise to help relieve stress, it is helpful to know what the signs and symptoms of stress in our body look like. The same Harvard article shared the following signs. Muscles are tense, resulting in fidgetness, taut facial expressions, headaches, or neck and back pain. The mouth is dry, producing unquenchable thirst, or perhaps the sensation of a lump in the throat that makes swallowing difficult. Clenched jaw muscles can produce jaw pain and headaches. The skin can become pale, sweaty, and clammy. Intestinal systems range from butterflies to heartburn, cramps, or diarrhea. Frequent urination may be a bother. A pounding pulse is common, as is chest tightness. Rapid breathing is also typical and may be accompanied by sighing or repetitive coughing. In extreme cases, hyperventilation can lead to tingling of the face and fingers, muscle cramps, lightheadedness, and even fainting. During the stress response, the mind and body can amplify each other's distress signals, creating a vicious cycle of tension and anxiety. So, when we feel these physical symptoms in our bodies, we now know that exercise is one way we can help to improve them. To get back on track, some more ways to keep yourself sane and healthy and happy are to make sure you get enough sleep for what your body needs, which is typically 7 to 9 hours. Be firm with your boundaries. It is perfectly okay to let housemates know if you need a reasonable amount of quiet time or alone space to work. Stay hydrated and eat a balanced diet. You might be surprised at the difference you feel when you drink the recommended amount of water a day. Drop the urge to be perfect and find a replacement word that works better for you in the situation. This might look like deciding to be confident when giving a presentation versus trying to be the perfect presenter. Talk to people you trust, like friends and family, on a regular basis. Lastly, find an activity that you enjoy that you can use for self-care. So, we just mentioned self-care activities, but what are they? Self-care is any activity that we do on purpose to help take care of our mental, physical, and emotional health. Self-care is not using substances or doing other risky behaviors. Though you may feel relief in the moment, these activities usually do not help in the long run. Self-care is doing activities like physical exercise, listening to music, talking to a friend, writing in a journal, meditating, etc. With that being said, I would now like to lead us in another 5-minute discussion. For the first 2 minutes, I would like it if everyone in the group could share at least one activity that they have personally used for self-care. However, feel free to share as many as you can think of. The 2-minute timer will begin now. Okay, group, that was 2 minutes. Thanks for sharing. In our last 3 minutes, I have a challenge. I would like everyone to list one more activity that seems like self-care, but might not be helpful. If you can, please also write a quick sentence on why you think this would be unhelpful. For example, drinking alcohol as self-care might not be helpful because it only makes us feel good for a short time and doesn't help with the underlying problems. Okay, the 3-minute timer will start now. All right, that was 3 minutes. Great job, group. Thank you all again for your participation in the discussion. Before we finish, I would like to take a minute and review the most important things to take home from this presentation. COVID may have changed routines, but it does not mean that you cannot create a new, balanced, healthy, and effective routine that works for you. Coordination and good communication are two of the most important things you can do to create a new functioning routine. It is okay to ask for help when you need it. And never forget, your mental health is important, and good mental health helps you go a long way. Thank you everyone for attending this presentation. Please stick around for the remainder of this time. You have the opportunity to ask any questions you might have or discuss any part of this presentation with your peers or I in the live chat.